Minerva Type K 40 horsepower ROI des Belges 1906. Few Edwardian cars rank as high as Minerva, Belgium's goddess of automobiles. Its founder, Sylvain de Joon, was a Dutchman born in Amsterdam in 1868, who moved to Belgium in 1883, opening a company importing English bicycles 6 years later. He soon moved to England to study cycle manufacture, and returned to Belgium to capitalize on the low cost of labor, building bicycles in Antwerp under the Mercury trademark. He spent time in America studying production methods, and in 1897 left Mercury to establish a new company producing cycles, the first Minervas. By 1899 production was running at 200 cycles a week, but he had greater ambitions and had taken on a Didion Boughton agency. Learning much from Didion quality, in 1900 he began making Minerva motorbikes, which enjoyed many competition successes. At the same time, he began experimenting with prototype voiturettes, but the demand for two-wheelers meant that car production only got slowly underway from 1902. The Société Anonyme Minerva Motors was founded in 1903, with de Jong and his friend David Citroën, a Dutch-born naturalized Englishman who had been Minerva's highly successful British agent since 1900, as directors, and a new factory equipped with the latest machinery was opened in Antwerp in December 1904 with 550 workers. Production began with a range of T-head cars with 2, 3 and 4 cylinders and chain final drive, initially with armored wood chassis, but soon with pressed steel frames. In 1905 the agency was taken up by the Hans C.S. Rolls, who entered 220 horsepower 4-cylinder Minervas for the Isle of Man Tourist Trophy. They failed to finish, but the spark of competition had been kindled. In 1906, when Minerva production reached 600 cars and 3,000 motorcycles and engines and a 4-story building was added to the Antwerp factory, standard production Minervas took second place in the team prize in the Coupe de l'Ouest and won their class in the Circuit Tourist de la Semaine d'Ostende among other successes. Late that year Minerva introduced the big pair-cast T-head 40 horsepower 6-cylinder Type K of 6235 cc, and, according to a list of models and serial numbers supplied to a past owner of the car offered here by a Mr. T.G. Morris, a former Minerva employee, this is the third example of that model to be built. The first, he said, went to the chairman of the company, a Mr. Siddeley. This car's first owner was Lady Geraldine Digby Street Lawrence of 43 Eaton Square, London, the aunt of racers Algie and Billy Guinness. She bought the car through the then sole concessionaires for the model, Arnott and Holloway of 17 New Burlington Street, in London's West End. It has the unusual feature of a period twin carburetor installation that hints at early competition use. A fuzzy photograph copied from the Guinness family album in the car's thick file shows the Minerva parked alongside other high-powered cars, including the famous 1905 200 horsepower Derrick record breaker, from Algie Lee Guinness's personal stable, probably at Algie and Bill's farmhouse at Datchet, and it seems possible that Algie, who drove for Minerva around that time, could have borrowed his aunt's car for hill climbs or other speed events. An unusual feature is a 4-speed gearbox. Early Type Ks were normally fitted with a 3-speed transmission, again hinting that this was a rather special car. The car has a leather-faced cone clutch and final drive to the live rear axle, which is located by a swinging arm torque rod and radius arms outside the chassis, is by an open propeller shaft. In 1910 Lady Street Lawrence sold her Minerva to a Mr. A. Batter, who ran a garage at Old Windsor. He removed the car's Morgan-built ROI des Belges body and fitted Landaulet coachwork, using the car as a hire car in the Windsor area, among other duties ferrying passengers from Old Windsor railway station to take tea with the Queen at Windsor Castle. During the Great War, the Minerva was used for police work, and when found by VCC member Alan Edwards of Lyndhurst, Hampshire, at Mr. Batter's garage in 1956, it still had blackout paint on the headlamp glasses as a precaution against Zeppelin raids. By the mid-1950s, the Minerva was no more than a chassis, the Landaulet body having been scrapped some time earlier at the start of, as Mr. Edwards commented at the time, a rebuild which has been in progress ever since. and was unfinished due to the fact that Mr. Batter was then 87. Mr. Edwards began a restoration of the car, though seemingly more concerned with the veteran New Orleans that he had been restoring on and off since 1955, and completely dismantled it, storing the components of the engine beneath his upstairs sitting room table. He acquired the front portion of a Napier ROI des Belges body from Fairfax Wade Palmer of the New Forest in exchange for a cabriolet body bought from prominent VCC member J.A.G. Burchill. However, around the start of the 1960s, Mr. Edwards traded the Minerva with fellow enthusiast Alan Betteridge in part exchange for a boat. Betteridge had wings made for the car by a strange panel beater in Southampton, and the rear axle was overhauled by Alan Southon of Phoenix Green around 1962 before the car, with its engine rebuilt and running, again changed hands in a trade deal with a company in the West Country. The Minerva next surfaced in 1974, when it was in the hands of Paul Folkestalbert of Crowborough, who was apparently selling it on behalf of his friend Bernard Garrett. Folkestalbert sold it to Michael Banfield, who commenced a painstaking restoration, endowing the car with an immaculately crafted replica of its original ROI des Belges coachwork by Morgan and Company of Long Acre. Now this unique and spectacular Edwardian is ready to write a new chapter in what Belgian historians Jacques and Yvette Couplien have so eloquently described as the glorious history represented the summit of world automobile manufacture.